Hello.
Hey,
Hello
Jane.
and welcome. Hello, G. How are you? I am super excited for tonight's call. I'm even more excited that, oh, we have another one in the waiting room.
Ooh,
Oh, Miss Penny. I got to meet Penny on Friday. What day was it?
oh, you did.
I know. It
I
always
love
hits
that.
different. I was just saying that I got to meet you on Friday, Penny. I was saying I love when I get to meet people, like my clients. Oh, sorry, I muted you. Sorry, that was rude. What were you saying?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was so good to meet you.
How are you feeling post event?
Really good. So just had a couple of days with one of the other girls from the event and did some chilling, and it was actually nice just to spend time with somebody doing the same stuff
Hmm.
and being sort of on the same level and being able to have someone to discuss the event with and talk about everything with and see how, we both got out of bed and armed with our journals and
Mm.
and stuff. So yeah,
I
So
love
nice.
that. I love that. I'm glad you had a good weekend.
thank you. Friday was just the epitome.
Oh, I know. I feel like I'm still pro. Sorry, I literally just turning this into a group chat right now. But yeah, I feel like Friday was so cool. I just had the best time.
Yep, it was great.
Good. I'm glad. Okay, cool. I'll put you on mute now so I can um
So sorry also in advance. My cats jump around everyone, so
it is literally so fun. As I was saying before I got distracted because I got excited. Welcome. Tonight is not about me at all, which is fantastic because I feel like I am sick of talking after this weekend. I need a day off. I need a day off yapping. And I've
done.
yapped too much. So I'm super excited because Emma is going to be delivering a incredible training tonight. I have full trust in her. I already said to her, doesn't need to go for 60 minutes. When she's done, she is done. She'll introduce herself. For those that don't know her, I just run on the assumption that everyone knows her because I'm like, how do you not?
Everywhere.
But there's probably some of you that actually don't. So basically, Emma, I invited her to deliver a guest training tonight on storytelling and the importance of storytelling, whether it's in your personal brand, whether it's in your business, or simply when you're actually just connecting with another human being. So this is going to be a really important training. So please be present, turn your cameras on if you can. Be in the chat box and be interactive, okay? Inviting Emma, I pay her to be here, or we have some sort of exchange when I bring in guest speakers. Respect their time. I want you to respect them like you would me. So if it was me delivering the training, I know you'd be in the chat. I know you would have your cameras on. I know you'd be present. I know you'd be taking notes. I expect the exact same treatment to Emma. Okay. Because what we don't want to create is a standard where, oh, if it's me delivering a training, oh, then you'll have your camera on and then you'll take notes and then you'll be in the chat box and then you'll be present. We need to learn how to be a student, regardless who is the educator and the teacher. So that is essentially what Emma is doing. This is not about me, and I can give you an event recap another day. It's not about me. And I will be learning with you. I'll be learning alongside of you. So I'll be sitting back myself and actually indulging in the information. So it's a little bit of like two birds, one stone. She gets to teach you, and also like I like to bring in people that I get to learn from too. So I will go on mute and I'll hand it over to Emma and she'll take over. She has two cats and you're gonna love them. And I don't care if they're on the screen. So Emma, take it away.
Right. Thank you. I'm so glad that all of you could be here and for everyone watching. I'm really excited for this. I was saying to Sarah before, I was thinking for like the last month plus, about this training and what I wanted to speak about because storytelling is a big concept. And I think oftentimes when we talk about stories, there's this idea that they're beautiful connection pieces, and that is so true. But I actually really want to kind of turn it on its head tonight and teach you about storytelling through the lens of using it strategically, because you're a business who wants to connect with people, but ultimately help them make sales, make money, and make a really big impact. And I think stories are a huge key to doing that. And with all my clients, it's something, I instill in them. So I'll give you a little bit of a background to who I am just to start off, and then I'll go into the next kind of three phases I'm going to talk about for the however long this ends up going for. But essentially, I am a copywriter and marketer. I work in corporate marketing, and I also have my own business, obviously. And the cool thing about this is that I get to see all ends of the spectrum, and I have done for the last 2.5 years, of what makes a marketing campaign or a website or a social media campaign really effective. And the predominant biggest theme I've seen is that people are able to tell really good stories, but in a very strategic way. Now, I want to just get you all to close your eyes for a moment, and my cat is absolutely going to do the same. And I really want you to take a second, take a deep breath. And I'm going to say a couple things to you, and I just want the first thing that comes into your head to be what it is. And you can pop it in the chat, you can leave it in your head, doesn't matter. If I was to explain the ocean, the warm sun, soft sand, cool wind, are you transported to a place, or are you thinking about the different elements that I've said? Now, there's no right or wrong here, but it will prove a point for me. And I can see some of you typing, so I will give it a second. I was thinking about the elements. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I love that. Now, if I ask you to close your eyes again. I want you to feel the warmth on your skin as you walk through the water, touching your legs, and you feel yourself smile because you see your best friend across, waiting for you to come in for a swim. The cool air is beating down on your back. And you feel a sense of peace. You hear birds, and it reminds you that you're in a safe and beautiful place. And now you get to spend the day with this person that you love so much, creating memories. Okay, you can open your eyes. So in the same time it took me to explain elements to you was the same time it took me to put them together in a slightly more strategic way to paint a picture for you that would have made you have an emotional reaction. Now, how did the second time I said that feel for you? Yeah, more visceral, exactly. I can envision more. The first, I should focus on the adjectives. Exactly, exactly. And it's a cool exercise to do with a longer period of time, but I just wanted to give you a taste of how much we can complicate the concept of telling a story, particularly in a strategic way, to have an outcome. I felt myself smile the second time. I literally felt it. Yeah. So I said that in a way because I wanted a particular reaction from you. And that's going to lead me down this path. So as a storyteller, as a marketer, as a copywriter, this is what I do day in, day out. And I'm going to take you on a journey. I'm going to talk to you about the history, a little bit of storytelling, and make it really relevant to you as a personal brand, because we're all business owners here in some relevant way, or in a corporate world where you have a personal brand that you present to people every single day. I'm then going to touch on tying vulnerability into this and how your voice is something that can never be replicated by AI, but you can use different tools to tell your stories and to strengthen your voice and to use AI, but it's got to come from here first. You've got to be able to deliver what I just did for you to other people. So for everyone listening right now, with stories, the best part of storytelling really is that every single human wants to feel understood, heard, or felt. And the best, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize my cat was absolutely just creeping up in the corner. If he's distracting, I can get him down, but he is crawling. Okay. But Penny's like, oh my gosh. You'll meet him after. So by telling a story or a time that you went through something, connected with someone, you underwent some kind of, event that changed your emotional state, you allow people to feel seen, heard, and understood. And really, as humans, that's the biggest thing that we're craving from every interaction that we have, is in some way to feel seen, heard, and understood. Now, the normal way that you're going to hear about storytelling, if you go and look it up on YouTube or if you read a book about it, is that storytelling is all about vulnerability. And whilst I agree with that, I think storytelling is also really about strategy, because a good story that leads you through a beginning, a middle, and an end and serves a purpose to clearly convey an emotion, to bring people on a journey, and to help them feel connected to an aspired identity that they really want to have, you're going to make more sales, and you're going to have more people feel like you read their mind and that you're really in it with them as an authority. Because a great storyteller can sit around a campfire and tell stories, but a great marketing strategic storyteller, which I want all of you to be, can tell a story and make $10,000. A good storyteller can be the person everyone laughs at and the person who is entertaining, but a great storyteller will be the person that makes people have a standing ovation and that makes them invested in what they're sharing. And so I've got a couple dot points on the side. So if you see me reference, it's because I could yap about this for about 10,000 years. But essentially, feeling seen, heard, and understood is where I want to go through the power of storytelling for your personal brand. And when you tell a clear story, people can't look away. Now, humans are wired for stories. It's how we make sense of the world around us. And honestly, whether you are trying to thrive, to survive, to fall in love, to become someone that you want to be, we do it all through a story. We're drawn to them because they allow us to understand our place in the world. And I want you to take music as an example, films, books, anything that you consume that's story-based. You can sit there for hours. You can devour a book in a night. You can watch 10 series of a show back to back. You could watch all Harry Potters in a night. That's not because you have a dopamine addiction. It's because the story is so compelling to you as a human. Now, in a business sense, where do we have an opportunity to do this? We might have an opportunity if we write a book. We might have an opportunity in a website. But if I'm thinking of each of us every day, we have an opportunity on Instagram. We have an opportunity in our emails. And we have an opportunity on potentially another social platform that you're on. And that's where I want to bring it, because as much as storytelling is important in the bigger context, I want to make this applicable to you. So stories don't just resonate because they're emotionally compelling. And if you're thinking about your Instagram, for an example, I want you to set your mind back to how many stories you've posted on your Instagram account. And if every single time you've posted a story, you've thought, I need to make this emotionally compelling. Now, you don't have to answer me, but I'm going to hazard a guess to say that's not a thought that comes through every single time you post a story. But it's interesting because Instagram called them stories for a reason. Your feed is there to share posts for a reason. And yet we treat it like, and I've been guilty of this, absolutely, in the past, for sure, is really removing the fact these are stories. It's not 10 posts that you can share to tick your box, or 10 posts you can share on 20,000 topics. And if you want to do that, fine. But if you want to tell a story, Instagram's given you the platform to tell a beginning, middle, end story. And your feed obviously exists for a very similar reason. I bring up Instagram in this because when we talk about storytelling being emotionally compelling, you often hear people say it's to connect, and that's all well and good, but what does it actually mean to connect with people who might want to eventually buy from you? And what I've seen is this: our brains are always trying to work out how to keep us alive, how to keep us safe, and how to save energy. It's like insane how much that just drives us as humans. And so constantly, when we're scrolling on Instagram, when we're looking potentially to hire a coach, to hire a service provider, we're looking to get the information as clearly, as fast, as efficiently as we can, because we don't want to waste energy. And if you were to think about it like mental calories, you get 10,000 mental calories a day. Imagine if I posted a 20-part story sequence on Instagram to try to sell my service to you, and I made you waste 9,000 of your 10,000 mental calories understanding what I was doing. It doesn't matter how great the storytelling is, I've lost you because it wasn't strategic storytelling. Now, in your business, you have an opportunity to use that strategic storytelling to not waste mental calories. So I really want each of you for the next week or 2 weeks, every time you post, ask yourself, is this worth someone's mental calories? They've got to consume it. And when I've asked myself this, it is almost embarrassing sometimes, the answers you come up with, because you're like, oh, that wouldn't be worth my mental calories. Do you know what I mean? Going live just to go live, posting just to post, 20 story slides just to say you did 20 story slides. If you do it, I've done it. I was the head of the club. Like it will negate all the effort you put in. Now, the best way for you to use the strategic storytelling, which I will get to the how-to soon, is to have a super clear message. And storytelling can often be, dumbed down a lot or overcomplicated and frameworks and whatever. And that's fine. But if I'm speaking about it from the lens of you are running a business and you're going to connect with people, your message needs to be clear so that when you share the beginning, the middle, and end of a story, there's a point to it. Now, an example of this: when you throw a lot of information at people, as I said in the example of Instagram story slides, you lose them. How many times have you gone on someone's story and in the first slide you thought, I actually don't care? You might even like their content, but in the first slide, you've gone, I actually don't care. And you can see when people do it. I urge each of you, look at your analytics. You can see when people, if you look at it, skip the whole slide. They don't even go to the next one. And if you have a lot of people doing that, we can make it an emotional thing, and we can make it a thing of like, they don't connect with me and I'm only speaking to certain people. They're probably bored, to be honest, because if they worry about following you, if they care enough to follow you and they don't care enough to consume your stories at all, ever, we have a problem. So the first slide that you get to post on your stories on Instagram, or the first post in a carousel, or the first hook in your reel, whatever it might be, you get a chance to make it relevant to them and to use really clear messaging as you start to explain the beginning, middle, and end of your story. Now, if you're thinking, okay, great, what is clear messaging and how do I do that? Thank you so much for asking. Because we're always trying to conserve these mental calories, and we don't want people to check out. People's brains can't always figure out quickly what you're trying to say when you overcomplicate something, and when you confuse them, you lose them, basically. And that is a quote from Donald Miller, an incredible storyteller. His whole motto is, if you confuse, you lose. And clear storytelling is to guide the brain to what they need to know without overwhelming it. So in terms of doing this with your messaging, now, because you're now aware of the mental calories, because you're now aware of complicated messaging, I really want you to go back, and when you're understanding what it is you do for people and what your intention is to help them solve, to help them achieve, to help them become, if you cannot explain it to me, and it's very similar to what Sarah says a lot in articulation, but if you cannot explain it to me in 1 to 2 lines, it's not clear enough. And I'm going to use an example for you here because I really want to know what you think. So I have a client, metaphorically here, and this might or may not be drawn from past various experiences I've seen in corporate. And this client looks at me and he says, I can't have clear messaging because I do too many things. I'm multifaceted. I'm multi-passionate. My business is all these different areas. I have done for you offers. I have courses. I have all this stuff. And he does. He has a diverse business. What a shock in business. He has a diverse business. And he says, well, I do courses online, and then I do in-person, how to teach people how to do the thing. And then I also do, I go in and then I do it for them as well. So I do all of these things. And he teaches people how to paint. That's his job. He's teaching them how to paint online. He's painting for them. He's doing all these things. And he's going, I have no idea how to make this clear. Now, the easy option here is to say, you know what, your business, it's the anomaly. We actually can't. Storytelling is not for you. Messaging is not for you. You're just going to have to, hopefully in 15 posts, you can maybe get it down and someone will resonate because they're so confused. They buy from you out of panic, to be honest. Alternatively, we could get rid of all your messaging, all the things, all the ways he's sold, all the confusing messages he has, and the 50 taglines and all the website copy and everything. And we can just have one page. And on his page, it says, I help you learn how to paint things. And underneath is a button and it says, get a quote. And from the quote, you can pick if you want to learn how to do it or you want him to do it for you. I'm curious, if you were to go on a website and you saw this man and you wanted to learn how to paint and you saw 50 illustrations of painters and you saw different messages and 3 slogans and the charities that they sponsor and the people they help and the past project and all of this stuff, or you just saw a page that says, I teach you how to paint, get a quote. Which one would you naturally gravitate to? And there's no right or wrong in this, because either way, I can share the lesson in it. Yeah, that's a great point, G. Yeah. Yeah. And get a quote could have your details, your logistics, Exactly, the second one. So this was actually a survey that was done to a big group of people, that analogy I just gave you, a big focus group of a big marketing messaging agency who was helping a guy who had this exact problem. And the entire room unanimously said the second option. I think it was 40 people all said, I would have to go for the second option. I couldn't cope with the first. And yet we're still trying to tell ourselves that simple messaging just isn't a priority. It's just clear messaging just isn't a priority. If the man who paints 50 things and teaches you how to paint, and in this real analogy, it was 50 times more complex, his business, than I've even said. If he can get clear messaging, so can you. And then if you have clear messaging, you can tell a clear story. I used to think storytelling was hard before I'd understood it. And that's because I didn't know what my message was. So everything felt hard. Now, you have your clear message. Now, as I bring us back into the realm of online business, let's say we take away all of the slogans, the taglines, the rules you've made about your messaging. And let's just say, just to humor ourselves, we simplify it. And we take it back to the core thing that we help people do. And I don't care if it's an I help or it's an whatever it is. If you can confidently say, yeah, that's what I do, then you have a clear message that you can get behind. If you are panicking hearing that, your message has got to be your priority. Because once you have that clear message, you can start to explore the way that you communicate it. And that is through telling your stories. So the reason that we need to use clear stories and clear messaging is because people are so used to hearing noise, but underneath all the noise, there's desperate pockets of people with questions they want answered from you. There's such a desire for clear information given back to you. So if we take the Instagram story analysis again, or example, I should say, and we go back to that. So you've got what you do. You've got your clear mission, your I help, the driving, takeaway that you help people achieve. And in helping them achieve that, I would hazard to say there's probably a couple of subtopics or subtopics is the correct word, that might be expansions of that. So I'll give you an example for me. I help people take their ideas and turn them into quality pieces of marketing, of copywriting, that makes people want to work with them. That is what I do. Now, the subtopics of how I do that comes with doing it for them, helping them learn, a bunch of different things. But now that I'm clear on that, how much easier is it to look at my storytelling and think, okay, so if I was going to share my why, my founder story, who I am, I don't need to share it through the lens of oversharing my past or sharing things that make me uncomfortable. I actually have a lot of power now to share directly based on my message, my why. That can be the golden thread, the thing that I focus my story around. So I might have gone through a lot of things in my life, and I might have had a lot of different situations come up. But when I tell you my story of who I am, what I'm going to tell you is that I had this great internship when I was at uni, and it really sparked in me this desire to want to write more. And as I learned about writing and marketing, I realized that there was a really big gap for people in storytelling, marketing, and in the way that they could share their stories. And part of why I do what I do now is because I was curious enough when I was younger to look at the different ways that people were, communicating and the different ways they were teaching writing, and to question if that was the best way for me to do it. I'm not telling you what happened to me when I was 10 or what I studied at uni. Now, there's things that will be relevant to each of you, but the purpose of why I'm saying this is that when you have a clear message, it's the golden thread for every one of your stories. So you don't have to worry if a story is relevant or not. If it relates to your message, it will be relevant. Now, I tell you a great story of a client. It relates to my message. How much easier is that? This is the mentality I want you to have when you share not just your stories verbally or, in writing, but when you share legitimate Instagram stories or posts, and starting to really think of everything as a customer journey, a client journey for that person. Because the biggest enemy that you will have in your business from a communications lens, and I promise you this, is noise. And it's not noise from other people, it's the noise you will put out. If you are not careful, you will contribute to all of the noise and the confusion and the clutter that makes people not want to buy from you and not want to work with you. And I can say that because, again, I've had to learn and see for myself where that was really true. Because if you can't identify someone's problem, if you can't show them how you can help, if you can't paint a clear picture for them using an analogy or a story, you'll never have a message that resonates. You'll have a lot of those adjectives like we did in that practice, but you'll never have that emotion, that feeling. So when you jump on your Instagram stories, think of it like you are telling a story, and every story has a hook to get you in. And I don't just mean a social media hook, I mean a genuine point of interest to get you in. It has a start, it has a middle, and it has an end. Now, if you want to look more into how to tell a story, I'll drop in school after a couple of resources about the structure of a story if you want to nerd out a little bit, because it's fascinating and it's easily found everywhere. I didn't invent the structure of a story, unfortunately. But when you know that, you'll watch every movie and you'll go, I know what's about to happen in about 10 minutes, because stories don't change. They are fundamentally the same. And it feels like a cheat code a little bit when you know it, because you think, God, I've really like complicated this a bit for myself. And I've made it mean something about me, and I've made it all feel like a trauma dump or this or that. And it's not. It's not. You have 4 core stories you could tell, but you could tell one, you know, for the rest of your time in business. But if you can nail it and tell it well and be strategic with it, you will make sales, because I see people do that. Sarah's a really good example of that. She doesn't tell 800,000 stories. She's very, very, very particular when she tells a story. And you may have even heard it said, but it works. And why does it work? Because the message is clear, because there's a beginning, a middle, and an end, even in a little way. And because it's using her mission as the golden thread, the thing that keeps it relevant. And I say all this to you again as someone who's done this with clients, but also had to see it in myself. You know, people talk about their own blindness. Like, what's my blindness? Eyebrow blindness or hair blindness? Mine was blindness about, I was so good at telling people about storytelling, and then I would yippity yap my way through a story and forget what I knew. And I had to really go, oh, you've got to practice this. So I'm going to save you the time. Now, going back to my notes here is, I want to tie, now that you've thought about your Instagram stories as a story, you're thinking about your feed as taking someone on a journey. And every single time you share something, you're thinking, are these mental calories worth what I'm sharing? You can go into school after, and I'll drop in the how-to of storytelling, like fundamentals, because it's very cool. But I want to tie this a little bit into now. In 2024, going into 2025, we're all sharing on our social media. We all have our businesses or personal brands in some capacity. And we want to ensure that we don't sound like everyone else. But I think in the pursuit of obsessing about that, it can become a really big waste of your own time, because the obsession of not wanting to sound like everyone else just makes you inevitably sound like everyone else. And obviously we're all in here doing articulation work, and that is a huge part of it. And I would honestly say, for anyone who wants to be a better writer, like, if you're not doing the articulate woman stuff, like genuinely, if you're not doing that stuff, what I'm telling you is just not gonna, you're gonna get about 20% of the value of it. And that's the truth, because I learned that as well myself as someone who is a writer. So it's a package deal. But if you are doing that work, and you are working on your articulation, and you are thinking about your voice and how you come across and how you're perceived, when it comes to telling stories and writing, it can be tempting to think, okay, I can never turn to something like AI. I can never use that to help me, because it's not going to sound like me. It's unethical. It's going to lose its humanness. On the alternative edge, there's people who only use AI, and they only use that, and they do lose their humanness. And I want to come to you with a bit of an alternative, and something I do. I genuinely believe that AI is a mirror for what we choose to put into it, and how much you're able to tap into vulnerability and connection and trust in yourself and as a human. And Brene Brown is a great example of this. If you want to rewatch The Power of Vulnerability, I did, and I do often. And it reminds me that when someone's trusting me to be their guide in whatever the journey is, and I'm helping them through that, and I'm selling that to people through stories, there's an element here where AI will only be able to emulate as deeply as I've been able to meet that in myself. Now, AI can't be vulnerable. It can't build the emotional depth of humanness in itself. But if you have that in you and you know how to use AI, it can be a great way to mirror your emotion and your depth and to create good content. And I say that as someone, who is a copywriter. Now, what I would say is, back to the mental calories thing, because your voice is your signature and your voice is your trust, and it's your reputation in a lot of ways. When you choose to use AI and you choose to feed it, your vulnerability and you're choosing to give it those things, just be very mindful about what instances you do. And I'll give you a little show of how I use AI every day in my business, in my life, in my corporate role, because it makes life fundamentally easier for me in a lot of ways. I like to think of AI as my virtual assistant. And he's a robot and he exists and he's there. And I, as the human with the depth and the fuck ups and the shame and the vulnerability and the love and whatever, and all the spectrum of emotions that I have the power to feed it certain things. And what I've realized is that if I'm able to use AI to help me see a new perspective in something, potentially see a blind spot I didn't see, and I'm talking in the realm of writing, or to show me a bigger, so for content, for example, if I make myself a plan for how I want to share my message and my content, I've gone into AI and I've said, is there a perspective I'm missing? Because my audience is made up of these people. And I've had it come back and tell me, yeah, there's a perspective of this type of person in your audience who wouldn't feel seen and heard by that you want to work with. And you're missing that. And there's a gap there and you're not seeing the gap. And I've gone, oh, okay. I'm making content for this one person who I love, but there's this person here going, hey, I just need you to speak to me. And I haven't seen that gap. So when it comes to AI and I don't want to sound like AI, I don't want to use it to write. I would remove the concept of AI writing for you out of the vocabulary. And I'd think of it more as, where can it be a mirror for the vulnerability and the humanness and the ability to write that you already have, that you're working on? If you want to share a story and you write out this story and you put it into AI and you say, is there a perspective I'm missing? Is there a fundamental aspect of this story that I haven't clocked that I could leverage? You will get some great feedback. You will, but you've got to be able to know that what you're feeding it is the best version of yourself and your abilities that it could be, because it will never bridge that gap. It'll never be the more vulnerable, the more emotive, the better writer, because it can't, because it's based off how you prompt it, how you treat it. So in terms of what that means for you and your personal brand, your message, your clear message, and using simple and easy to understand stories that don't waste people's mental calories is going to be the best way to sell to them. And in order to save you time, you can use AI as your assistant to reflect a blind spot or to reflect something you don't see, and make that process 5 times faster, 5 times more effective than it could have been before. So it's not really about doing more. It's just doing it intentionally. It's doing it right. And, when I communicate with my audience now, especially, I ask myself, am I adding to the noise, or am I helping them feel seen, understood, heard? And that can be by lovingly calling them out, whatever that looks like, through a clear and simple journey. And those changes have meant I've seen huge changes in my own business, my own content, my own storytelling ability. And I'm really confident if you treat your social media with that mindset, you will see that too. Because you'll be able to implement all the things you learn in this membership. You'll be able to implement all the things you learn about articulation. Because you'll be able to go, oh, it's not, oh, I haven't shown up on my stories today. Because again, anything you thought, I have thought this. I have done this in the past. Like, it's saying, okay, cool. I have an opportunity here. I have 6 or 7 or whatever, how many slides to tell a story. What am I going to tell? Like, just before I jumped on this call, I was like, let's get to know me better. And I used it to tell a story. So I urge you to start thinking about it like that. Even the way Instagram called it a story, your feed, you're feeding people things, you're telling stories. They've literally called it these things for a reason. They want you to use it that way. Like, when I don't know if any of you have ever, I know Sarah's going to say absolutely not, but like, let's say you don't post on your story for one day and then you post and your views suddenly skyrocket. Like, you've got like, suddenly all your audience sees what you posted because you just didn't post for a day. Instagram wants you to be telling things as a story. They do not want 50 random things smacked together. I see I promise you, if you post 20 random stories that make no sense together, which I've done, and I've seen the results, you will get about 10 views and a waste of all the mental calories that you could have conserved. Whereas a really well-told journey, in whatever way that looks, a bit of selling, a bit of your personal life, makes tenfold of a difference. So Joey is here because he is indicating to me that he would like to hear some questions if anyone has any. And he will absolutely not go away unless I show him to everyone. So he's saying hi. But if anyone does have any questions, please pop them in the chat. And I was even thinking what could be a great idea is if you have your I help statements that we were talking about, those missions, pop it in the chat and let's do a bit of workshopping because we've still got time. And I love what you said, G. Like, I find clients sign up with me because of my ADHD, so I want to hear it. And I've been watching your content as an example for Georgia because, I've followed her for a long time. And your stories, you haven't been sharing 50 different stories. You've been sharing maybe 1 or 2 of core stories, tweaking them every time, making them a bit relevant, but you've seen such different results because they're clear. I understand them. I understand them enough I could analyze them. And when I don't understand a story, I can barely analyze it. I can barely read it like it's English. So drop your statement in the chat if you're able to, and let's do a little bit of workshopping. My pleasure.
I'm unmuting myself.
How dare you?
And interjecting.
Yes.
Every single one of you should put your I help statement in the chat. If you are here, put it in. Workshop. If you don't, I never want to hear you complain about the fact that you can't speak to your ideal client ever again. I never want to hear it again.
And if you're watching the replay,
if you're watching if you're watching the replay,
you can put it in my thread that I'll post about storytelling. I'm happy to go through it and look at those. Yeah. I
absolutely never want to hear again. I feel like no one's listening. That's my story. And something else I wanted to add about the journey thing, which I said to Em before. I obviously, if you didn't know, I was in Brizzy on Friday over the weekend and delivered a speech on Friday. And a lot of the feedback that I got from people, I didn't know like 85, 90% of the room, to be honest. And so a lot of people didn't know me. And a lot of the feedback I got was, you could tell that how I spoke, I structured it like a story. It had a beginning, middle, and end, and you knew when I was going to wrap up, which meant that like people felt very comfortable in listening to me talk because they knew where I was going. Whilst I didn't know what I was going to say, they felt very confident that like I wasn't going off on a tangent and it was like, where was she going with this point, right? So I think that's important for people in here that want to be speakers. You'll notice if you come to a command event for the rest of the year, it's a story. And you'll notice I break you in the beginning, get you really emotional in the beginning, but then you'll leave on a high. So this is the part about storytelling, that we have a responsibility to make the consumer feel safe and not like on edge. Like, have you ever read someone's story? And I'm sure Em can relate, or like marketing, and you're like literally on edge. You're listening to someone speak and you're like, I literally don't know where you're going with this at all. And like, I'm lost. Like, what's legitimately going on? It's the exact same. You need to have a structure of like, something that my mentor said to me, which her mentor said to her, so it's from Flick, was if you had 60 seconds to get your client to have a transformation, what would you say?
Mm.
And when Did said that to me, I was like, oh my God. And she goes, because that's really what we do when we sell ourselves. You've got 60 seconds in a story. You've got X amount of seconds. You've got to cut the crap and cut the context and the story and today was amazing and the weather. It's like, you've got to go straight for the jugular, and actually, because you've got that time. If you had to sell your offer in 60 seconds, what would you say? And it's the same with in-person events. I've got 6 hours to get a transformation out of you. So I think a lot of you with your storytelling as well, put yourself under a time constraint. Put yourself like, I only have 3 slides to sell this thing. Instead of the 20, like Em used to be the biggest culprit of the 20, 30. That was her middle name.
Literally, this is what I'm saying. I know this.
That was her middle name. Like, and I remember being like, bro, why did I just count 12 slides to sell a one-on-one call?
Yeah. And the difference as well on the end of that, a good story, you can have, you can tell your story in a few slides and sell, but it doesn't feel like you've had 7 slides of selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. You can know. So what I don't want you guys to get fixated on is the number of slides, but rather the feeling of it. Like, am I going on? Is this a monologue? Like, do I have a level of interaction with my audience, right? But also looking at the intention behind the storytelling. So not boycotting, but this is just relevant. Like when I storytell, for example, is my intention to educate you or activate you? So if my intention was to activate you, my delivery is very different. So say, for example, I'm going to take the topic of, okay, at the event, someone asked for a reflection, asked the panel, can you reflect something? And I was like, this is my favorite question of the day. And I said, where you're all sitting makes perfect sense. And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, rookie error. And I said, the people at the back were my most reserved and they were on their phones, and the people at the front were the most attentive. Now, the people at the back, I caught their eye, and they were like, how did you see us, right? But that's a teaching, right? So when it comes to me creating my content, if I wanted to educate people, I could say, here is why your seating matters and what I can tell from where you sit. And I can tell the story and I can educate it. This is why, blah, blah, blah. If I wanted to activate someone, I could potentially do a reel like this. What's my face saying about me, huh? So why do you do it at an event? Let me tell you a story. So there's 2 different examples. I'm going to tell you the same thing, but I'm going to activate you in the first one because those that have a resting bitch face or a scowl are going to be like, how dare you? But in the second part of the people are going to be like, oh, I really love to intellectually connect with what you're saying. So remembering that storytelling isn't like, I was born on the 30th of September on a beautiful cold morning and now I'm a loser. It's not like that, right? And then all of a sudden, I got beat up and I got bullied at school and everyone fucking hates me. No one cares. No offense, but no one cares about that. What they care about is, what did you learn in those moments? Because no one's going to want to resonate with someone that's like, I was bullied and I was a loner, but what did a loner teach you? What's that skill set, right? And this is the part where we have to be mindful of the language in which this is obviously my bread and butter from an articulation standpoint, because that's what people are going to bond over. So for example, I don't talk about I have chronic pain. It's a very strategic thing for me. I don't want a client to work with me because they've got chronic pain. I want them to work with me because of the mentality that I have throughout it. So also be mindful with that intention. We'll go into the I help statements so I can shut up. But
This is great.
you've got to go into the intention behind like your I help, right? So for example, it's like, okay, I'm going to take one here. I help people with ADHD understand how their brains work so they realize how powerful it is. Is that what you do? Like, is that how you want to connect? Do you want to connect with people that feel powerless? Do you want to connect with the people that feel inferior to their mind? Or is it something else? So we have to be mindful. It's like, for example, I help people move from good to great, which means my messaging, I can no longer speak to people that are bad anymore, which means I don't post my before and afters anymore, unless it was a before and after in the past year. Right? So we have to look at, do I literally actually want to do this? Or am I going to complain about the clientele that I attract and how no one wants to take action? Or are you speaking to those that don't want to take action? And that's why they're stagnant. So you have to be mindful of when you're storytelling, what parts of your story you share. Because whilst it's completely relevant, it doesn't mean it's relevant to your brand. For example, right? I'll shut up soon.
No,
On the
this
weekend,
is great.
Emma's like frothing this. I'm like, sorry, I'm boycotting.
Oh, I love this.
On the weekend, I was obviously at an event, right? So you would have seen a lot of photos. Let me turn my brightness down slightly. Like this, right? You would have seen very professional photos. Stunning. You would have seen me with my hands as always. Right? You see that. What you're not seeing is also this photo. Me in a cat headband on the balcony with the gals. Why aren't you seeing that? Because it's irrelevant to my brand. That's why. Except for the fact that Vanessa loved my cat headband and signed up to work with me after she saw it, but that's irrelevant. But it's these things, right? It's like, there's a reason why I have a uniform. There's a reason why you see me in a blazer all the time. There's a reason why my speaking gigs, I wear pretty much the same thing. There's a reason for it, because if you're going to repeat yourself, you want to be able to speak to those people, right? It's like, for example, I was going to make a piece of content around like, what was it going to be? It was like a topic on, I just had this conversation with Jess today. I was like, you know, I'm going to do a piece of content around like why, you know, you shouldn't have failed payments, whatever. I was like, and why, you know, you shouldn't have to wait for this to happen so you can do something, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to educate people. And Jess said, but yeah, I get that. And just because you can say it doesn't mean you should. Is that relevant? Is that like, whilst you can educate people on failed payments and investments and risk, is that the person you want to speak to? She's like, is the person in the good position doing that behavior? And I was like, no, they're not. She says, exactly. So you don't speak to it. So also, I think there's a level of restraint we practice as storytellers and marketers, and like, just because you can say something and leverage something doesn't mean you should. And that's what I wanted to add. Now I'm shutting up and Emma's going to work show your highlight statement.
I loved that. No, I think you're spot on. And this is where, when I talk about stories and your core stories, you know, yes, you've got your founder story, why you started. You've got your, potentially, if you're, you know, not a personal brand, you have a brand of a brick and mortar business, or you've got a product, like you've got your business story, the actual business, how that came about. You've got different stories, but the one that I think is probably overlooked the most is micro stories. And micro stories are moments, and this is what Sarah was talking about, where you have a really good opportunity to speak to, like, for lack of a better term, the empowered buyer. Because if you think back, okay, this situation happened today, this situation happened last week, this situation happened last month, and you can walk people through a very relevant situation, whether it's, you know, something that you encountered in someone else, whether it's something you saw in yourself, and you can use that micro moment as a story. You really don't run the same risk as when you're referencing in deep in the past, or deep in searching for people who are desiring a solution to anything. Like a good micro story, for example, is Sarah using the weekend, you know, because the thing with a micro story, and when I say micro, I just mean it's not one of your core stories, it's a moment, or it's something kind of smaller. is, you know, let's say the people at the back who have resting bitch faces, they're not necessarily not your ideal client. So you have an opportunity to, whether it was in person or on, you know, on Instagram, to share a micro story about that moment, to call people forward. So when you can use micro moments really well, micro stories, you can call people forward. You can speak to people who are already in a good position and want to get to a better position. You can be more flexible with the way that you share them, because you're not necessarily speaking to like a big before and after or a big origin story. And they have their place, absolutely, but you need to really know how to tell them for them to be relevant. So storytelling, I think that's why when you understand the fundamentals of it and how to tell a story in general, and you work on your articulation, so you know your language, it's a really good combination, because you don't run the risk of just saying, are you shit, and you want to be better. You actually say, I was thinking today about this thing and how incredible it is when I watch people go from here to here. And you suddenly have people go, oh, that's me. I see myself in that. Like, I don't, for example, and I have in the past, but I don't market a strategy call to someone who has no strategy, sucks at business, zero idea what they're doing, just absolutely messing up in every avenue. I market and position it to someone who understands that they need a roadmap to get to where they want to be. They're already doing things. They just need more of a roadmap to follow. It's different. And because of that, different kinds of people buy. Sorry, I've got cat hair all over me. All right, let's look at your I help statement. So I'll start with you, G. I help people. So I know Sarah touched on this. I help people with ADHD understand how their brains work so they realize how powerful it is. Whenever I look at your mission and your core statement and what you're really doing in your business as a whole, I always bring it back to thinking in present tense. And that doesn't mean you have to write it like that. But when you're saying, I help people with ADHD understand how their brains work so they realize how powerful it is, you can make a really small tweak there to say, I help people understand, or I help people harness, understand, utilize the power of their brain despite their ADHD, or alongside, you know, their ADHD. Like, I think when you look at an I help statement, it's really important to remember, and this is for you to follow, what do you want the focal point to be? Because the focal point in that is someone with ADHD needing something. When you tweak it and you say, I help people harness the power of their brain so they can, you know, realize how powerful it is despite their ADHD, it's the focus becomes off the ADHD, it becomes off the needing something, and it becomes what you're doing. What do? You help them find the power. So it's that small tweak of just honestly putting yourself back into things. I think often it is obviously about who we serve, but you are the focal point of that. What are you offering? And if I was to take that same mentality for you, Penny, and look down, I help people uncover the truest parts of themselves they don't realize they have buried. It's actually really quite similar to G's if I look at it. And the tweaks you can look at there is you help, and I'm saying this, you know, on the fly, so piece it together, it's, you know, with a bit of with a pinch of salt slightly, but you help people uncover. I would say, if I'm looking at this now, I'm like, I think you can get more specific than this if you look at words like uncover a truest part. But if I was going to go more specific, is you help people access the real self they have inside them. And in your marketing, you can mention, have you been suppressing or burying? But I don't necessarily think the person you're talking to has to be someone who has everything buried underneath. It could be someone, because you've got to remember, like, people don't know what they don't know. And in marketing, it's so easy to say, I help people who struggle to feel powerful or who have everything buried beneath them. And then the people who need your work the most go, I don't do that. I don't have everything buried. I don't suppress stuff because they need your work. So they're not thinking that they're doing that. But when you start saying, yeah, I actually help people access the most authentic parts of themselves so they can do XYZ, you start getting people going, oh, okay, I've wanted to do that. So it's that self-identity. And yeah, I help people harness the power of their ADHD brain. Exactly. Because all I see in that is what you're helping them do. You're helping them with an outcome rather than you're helping them get something that they're lacking. And so for you, Penny, I would say the same type of mentality is you're helping people access what's in here, which is a really big thing to help people with so that they can feel a different kind of way. But I don't think that them not realizing it's been buried is necessarily the key part of your message. I think it's you helping them access that. Because I would love to work on that. And I don't think I have things buried. So I think you limit your clients if you don't, if you keep those things there. And again, you don't have to share any of these statements with anyone, by the way. Like I've written mine in my phone on my wall, like I look at it, but I'm not on Instagram going, I help everyone write, XYZ. Yeah, I can see the difference clearly. Targeting without link, exactly. I think you can adapt it to your bio 100%. I think you can make your bio probably a little bit more fun, if I'm being honest. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't know, controversial. I don't think anyone's working with you from your bio. Like your bio needs to be good, obviously, but your content, your stories, the way you speak is going to sell. Like I've never looked at a coach and gone, fuck, that bio is really, that's me done. Like I'd have to look at their content, the way that they speak and then make that call. But I think weave it in, absolutely. Speaking in the present, not speaking to what they don't have. And then did V right? Or am I? Oh, yes, you did. Sorry. I help people uncover exactly who they are so they can intentionally build a career. Honestly, that's pretty like, I think you can be more specific with yourself. Like I think if you were to go, anytime I see words for anyone and myself included, uncover who they are, build. I always say you can probably be more specific because what is uncover? Well, you help people get access or you help people as G, utilize and harness, like discover maybe. Like there's just, I think you can be more specific for yourself. I don't want people to work with me because I didn't know who I was. I want people to work with me because of what I did to get to know who I was. Exactly. And that's a testament, as well to how much I think of this work you've done as well. All of us have, but I can see that in how you're saying that. I help people know who they are so they can get what they want. Yeah. And this is the thing, like, what does it mean to know who they are? And that's stuff for you to ask. I know for me, something that I used to say when I was a copywriter, my tagline was I write copy. What was it? This is a couple of years ago. Good copy hits different or something like that. It was something, yeah, it was hits different was the tagline. It was like good copy hits different. And whilst that's true and it was cute and like served the purpose, if I really think about it, I'm like, okay, what is hits different? What does that even mean? Like, so it's just, you need to also understand when you're saying this, what you're actually saying. So look in the mirror and say it, do the exercises like that we've all been drilled into us. Like, because if I say to you, I help people take the incredible ideas they have and execute them as campaigns that make them money, and campaigns could be social media, marketing, whatever. There's not a lot of guesswork for what I do. It's like, okay, that's what you do. Yes, you as a human makes it different, but when you have a core understanding of this, as straightforward and brutal and harsh as it can sound to read something that's like, I help people do this to get this, it will make things so much easier. Because right now, if you don't have an understanding of that, the fluffy, nice words are just not going to mean anything. Their values, their beliefs, yeah, I love that. I think you guys all did actually really, really good with that. I already see changes. And I think like, yeah, I know I said that to you, Penny, as well, but similar to what we said to G, like it's less about focusing on what they don't have. And it's that aspired identity. People always have an aspired identity they want. You know, we all do this work because we want to be better speakers, not because we're shit speakers. Like, does that make sense? We don't do this work because we all can't speak. We evidently can. G gets paid to speak. I can speak. Penny, I haven't heard you speak, but I'm sure you can speak. You know, V, like, we can all speak well, but we have an aspired identity that keeps us reaching for more. So you've just got to remember what that is in people, because they have it. And that's me done, because I think you guys, I could, as I said, put me off the script and I could keep going. So if there is any questions, though, please like pop them in. But as I said, I'll put in school about a little bit about the storytelling framework.
Cool. How are we all feeling? I feel like everyone's like, thank F. I feel like everyone, even I learned, like, this is really come at a good time for me too, because I'm rebranding. that old chestnut.
Exasperation.
So that's been cool for me too.
And yeah, and me, and one more thing.
And then me, I'm like, and then this one too.
I know. Gosh, I've got some cat hair going on. You know, some of you, I have an offer called Story Power. It was a free offer from like a year ago, and I love it, and it's very useful, but it's very much like a fundamentals. If you've never told a story, here's what to do. And it's really cool to have this conversation, because I'm like, oh, that serves a certain group of people, and that's great. But now when you're at this phase where you guys are all really good at what you do, and you're good at selling and good at articulating, you've worked on it, there's a whole other realm of how you can go from good to great in this way. And it's given me good data to be like, oh, okay, cool. There's like another like level of it. And that served beginners, I would say. And this work that you're all doing now and getting curious about is for going from good to great.
Love that.
Oh,
Cool. We have no questions. We all feel complete.
my pleasure,
Like
guys.
Penny's like, I'm typing.
I'm just typing.
She's like, I'm going as quick as I can. This is exactly what I needed coming out of last week, especially. Thank you so much, Emma. And of course, Sarah, for bringing Em in. My pleasure. I wanted to bring in Em for ages, but I was making her wait.
No, but
I was making her wait and build her speaking skills up. So this was like her final exam.
nice. One.
Namaste, you passed.
I felt, yeah, that was awesome. That
So
was
much value. Now, if no one's on Emma's mailing list and you don't know what's going on, but whilst I absolutely can teach marketing and you've got the brand playbook and things like that, whatever, Em is obviously the expert in this. I'm not going to sit here and say that I know more than Emma. I do not. So Em, did you want to potentially share with everyone what's coming out if they wanted to work specifically with you on this?
You read my mind. Great point. And I think the cool thing about this is you guys being in this membership, I don't just say it because I'm in it too. That is the proof, is it's so complementary. Like you couldn't have more complementary topics of understanding marketing and storytelling and writing, and then articulation and conviction. It's just, it's awesome. So I'm releasing, and the waitlist is now open for a marketing course, and it's called the Marketing Playbook. And it is designed to be everything you need as someone who is either not confident in marketing yourself, or you're, you know, a beginner at marketing yourself. You might have been posting for a while, you might be a personal brand, but you're a beginner in the realm of, okay, do I need a website or an email, or, you know, what's my messaging? Like, you just don't have those fundamentals nailed. That's why this has been in the works for so long. So the waitlist is open, and I would love to give you all access to that waitlist, because there's literally the most ridiculously cheap price for this course coming out on that waitlist. What'd you say?
So stupid. I thought I wasn't muted. I said so stupid. Which I meant is it's for Emma's knowledge and the price point and what she's doing for the waitlist. I read the email. I was like, this bitch did not ask me about this bonus.
I know. I was like, I know. I put it in,
but you know what? This makes it fun. Like, I've never launched a course before. We get to have fun with it.
I haven't. And so the juicy offer, which is on my email list, is that when the doors kind of open for it, if you're the first person to buy it, you get it for free. So it's a little like a raffle. So first person who buys it gets it for free. I don't know who it will be. Obviously, you don't know who it will be, but if you are interested in it, payment plans, whatever it is, I have the wait list, which has all the details on it. And I can, if Sarah is comfortable, like I can put that in school or whatever that looks like if you do want to be on that list. Yeah, you're welcome to. And I would love to see some of you in there because I think you would really enjoy it and take a lot from it.
Love this. Cool. All right. Everyone, thank Emma. Thank you, Emma. Snaps for Emma, everyone. Nah, that was so good. Thank you so much for your time. I know you have a very hectic work schedule too, so I appreciate this. We planned this about 3 months ago, and then it just creeped up on me and I saw it in my calendar. I was like, oh shit, I gotta tell everyone.
No, I honestly thought the same thing. I was like, when is that there? I have it in my calendar in like bright red. Like,
Yeah, me too. It was like
Yeah.
siren. I'm like, you have this thing tonight.
I love that. Oh, thank you all. And you guys were awesome. I love when people, bring things in. And as I said, it's super complimentary to what Sarah does. So watch the brand playbook. Go watch those courses. I've watched them all multiple times. It'll only make your marketing and storytelling better. So if you do work with me in the end, it'll only make it better. It's a win-win.
I love that. And also just like quickly touching on this. One more point. And then this is like on Friday, Penny will know what I'm talking about. On Friday, we were running out of time and then Jess was like, rapid fire. I'm like, yeah, rapid fire. And it was like a monologue from Didge. And then I was like, oh, I'll be quick. And then I'm like, and then this, and then Chloe, and then she was like, okay, we have to leave now. And I was like, all right, that's over. And then someone was like, I have a question, super quick. And I was like, okay. So this is, I feel like I'm doing this again. I'm doing the rapid fire thing
She's
again.
laughing because she's like, I know you guys so well that this is absolutely not shocking.
She's just not stopping, are you? I just wanted to talk about briefly, like the power of like actually having a story and having good marketing is obviously all the command events sold out for this year. And first release is already sold out for next year. And second release is almost about to sell out for next year. This is insane. Snaps for me. But what was really cool is we locked in the Brisbane location. It's at the nicest hotel I've ever been in my legitimate life. Like, if you're coming to Brizzy, I'm spoiling you rotten, but I essentially was like, you know what? I'm going to add 5 more tickets. Like I said, I wouldn't, but the venue can hold it. And I met so many beautiful people in Brizzy on the weekend. Like, let's open up more spots. 2 of them are already gone. And I opened them up literally this afternoon. So when you've got solid marketing and a solid story and solid transformations, and you leverage that because you are the direct embodiment of what you teach, selling is so easy. I literally put it up. I just said, Brisbane, here's 5 spots, and gone. I was like, just like that. And that wasn't not an overnight work. That was months of repetition of the same message, the same story, just speaking to it differently. So stop overcomplicating it. Think you need 5,000 different things. My command story is the exact same every single time. I just speak to it differently, whether it's activating, educating, etc. Cool. Yeah. One message, different deliveries. Exactly. And I love that you solved your first ticket. Snaps for G, everyone. Hell yeah. In person, like I just can't talk about in person. I can't believe I ever thought I wouldn't. I'm like Delulu. All right, cool. All right. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everyone. Have the best night, and I will see you all in our next coaching call. Bye.